Good morning. This is Module 10, so get excited. It's Chapter 9 in your textbook. This is our last installment of content for the semester. We are going to be talking about several things. I'm going to probably record this in parts, and these are the parts that I will probably record them in. So, part one is how routine messages affect credibility. Two, components of routine messages. Three, task oriented routine messages. And four, relationship oriented routine messages. Okay, so this is the order. These are what we're going to talk about. Part one is going to be about how routine messages affect credibility. So, your approach to routine messages strongly influences how others evaluate your responsiveness, reliability, attention to detail, commitment, professionalism. What does responsiveness mean? Meaning how, the timeliness, right? It's partly how the timeliness of your response, right? How you respond and the timeliness of that response. Reliability deals with, are you reliable in following up and following through with messaging, right? I think I spoke about how several modules ago about, 48 to 72 hours, 2 to 3 days is really max. That it should take you to respond. Sometimes life happens, but 2 to 3 days, 48 hours to 72 hours is about how long it should take. In addition, the other part of this is, uh, and I lost my train of thought. But it's about, your response, the timeliness of that response, um, attention to detail. A lot of times there will be information in these routine messages, and your ability to not just get the gist of it, but there may be specifics in there. And so attention to detail really just shows whether or not you're taking the time to actually read it. Commitment. Um, that has to do with, um, again, following through with the task, committing to the communicative process, um, you know, um, and being professional, the way in which you communicate also. So, people, as you communicate on a regular basis with people, um, and in not just business situations but life situations, period, your response, your responsiveness, right, your that's also agreeability, right? Compromising, does it have to be your way? Reliability, again, just trying to deal with, can we do we know that you're going to actually even respond, right? Reliable to complete whatever task you're given. Attention to detail. I didn't mention writing, but I think writing is something that becomes really huge with routine messages because of the fact that, remember, I think now I remember my point. My point before was, um, I forgot if it was module 7, or module 7 or 8, where we looked at how much time managers spent on email, right? Reading and writing email. We know that it's about 30 some odd percent. So that's 2 to 3 hours a day, right? In an 8 hour workday. And let's say you remove an hour for lunch, so you've got a 7 hour workday. So almost half of that time is spent reading and writing. And this is why writing your written expression becomes extremely important. Okay. So, as you know, credibility has three components, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about that right now. Competence, right? That has to deal with, you know, having the skills needed to do the job, right? That's in short. Having the skills and the knowledge to do the job that you have to solve problems, right? Right. So when I say to do the job, I'm including um, the various steps, right, or processes that are involved in getting a job done. It's also, having the skills and the knowledge to approach, right, a problem and be able to figure out how to get it done without necessarily being told, right? Somebody who's competent doesn't necessarily need someone to tell them what to do. They can figure it out. Okay. And even if that means getting frustrated. So let me give you a real practical example of even right now. This morning, even prior to me um, doing this recording for you all, I was having difficulty trying to figure out how to record my screen and my microphone or the audio to do this to do this presentation. Now, am I competent? Yes. I can read, I can write, I know how to get on the internet, I know how to search, I know how to research, to find, to figure it out. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I got frustrated. I got frustrated. Why? Because I'm working on an iPad Pro. And so sometimes the controls are a little bit different. Things are a little bit different. I do have another work laptop, but this is the newest technology, and it's helping me to get more competent in being able to use it. I did about 3 or 4 different searches. Things weren't working. I was getting frustrated, but I am competent, meaning I have the knowledge and the skills and the ability to figure it out and how to get it done. It took me a little more time than I would have liked it to be, right? It seemed like all the information that I got did not seem to solve my problem, but I had to keep pushing and keep figuring it out. There was no one to sit and walk me through this. Now, I did watch some YouTube videos, and I watched this and I watched that, and I was literally just looking for how to do it in PowerPoint and Keynote. Now I know I don't even have to use PowerPoint and Keynote. Okay. So I'm saying that I had the competence, the ability. I could read, I could write, I know how to research, I knew how to follow directions. I have the knowledge and the skills to figure this out. Did it take me some time? Yes. Did I get a little frustrated? Yes, I did. But I was able to figure it out. So no one was there to walk me through it, but I was able to figure it out. That's what competence is. Okay. If you have a supervisor or some of your supervisors, they may not have the ability to walk you through things, but you will make yourself someone and it's okay to need help. It's okay to need help, but you need to remind yourself what skills, what knowledge do you have, and do you have the tools to get it done? Okay. Competence. I spent too much time there. Caring. It's being interested in just more than yourself. Okay. Wanting to work with others. And it doesn't mean that you can't be an introvert and like working by yourself, but you need to be willing, right, to work with others. And some of you, or many of you, probably have experienced some interesting situations um, as it relates to working on these group projects. You've learned a lot about people, right? And people in your class, how much they care or don't. Um, so, and that impacts their credibility. You view them now a particular way based on how they have behaved uh, in trying to complete this project. Last but not least, character, right? These are your three components, right, of credibility. Remember that chair, right? So character, right? Your reputation, right? For following through, for doing what it is that you say, for your word being your bond, okay? For your word being your bond, adhering to high moral and ethical values. Developing routine messages. So, again, I'm going to say it again. Written expression is huge. Your writing ability is paramount. It is huge. Why? It's huge because you will need to produce multiple messages on a regular basis in a timely frame. Okay? So, you must get better at your writing, especially if those of you have heard from me, especially via the exit tickets, that you need some work. And even if I haven't said that you need work, some of you still know that you can improve and you should work toward that. Okay? So, developing routine messages, there are several parts. Okay? One is the primary message, right? You're going to say that in 10 words or fewer. We want to be efficient. Remember, 30% of, I think it was business managers said that they spent that amount of time on their workday. And again, I'll quote, that equals 2 to 3 hours, right? That's 2 to 3 hours, business managers, 2 to 3 hours. Um, So you want to be efficient, right? The goal with developing routine messages is efficiency. If this is not a word that is in your vocabulary, then you should look it up. Being efficient, okay? So you state your primary message, 10 words or fewer, then you're going to provide the details, okay? The details are the specifics or the support for the message that you mentioned, that you stated in the beginning. Then you're going to restate the request or key message in more specific terms. Okay, you're not going to just turn around and take one and move it to three. This is why vocabulary becomes important. And if you do not own a physical dictionary and thesaurus, I know I've said this before, I'm saying it again, get one. Yes, I know that there's Google, there's Firefox, there's Safari, but get yourself a physical dictionary and thesaurus. You need one. That is how you will improve your vocabulary. You cannot improve your vocabulary simply by typing in a word and trying to figure out what it means on Google. That might work for a little bit, but it is the act of going through the dictionary and thesaurus. And the thesaurus those are synonyms. Synonyms. I know they probably don't even teach using those anymore. But in all honesty, especially for those of you who are English language learners, meaning English is not your first language, you definitely can benefit from owning a dictionary and a thesaurus. Last is you're going to state goodwill, and that will become clear in the next slide. So here we are. You want to plan, get the content right, right? Get what it is that you need. Get all of the information, have all of that there. right? This is that plan part. You want to write it. So you want to work on the design, meaning how it looks. So if you have presented, then you know from trying to design slides, you are also thinking about the message, right? You should be. Style. How do you want to sound? Tone. Style, meaning the words. Tone. How do you want to sound? Right? And of course, you can see these bullet points here to the right. I'm not going to go into all of that. You can read that for yourself. But you want to write the message. So you plan the message, you write the message, and then you review it. Remember that FAIR test? You also want to proofread. When it is possible, you should get feedback. In other words, have somebody else read it, somebody credible, and have them tell you how it sounds to them. Okay. Now, in the absence of getting feedback from someone, and especially depending on the timeliness of your planning and writing and reviewing, what you might want to do is if you can step away from it for a day or even a couple of hours before you hit the send button, then that's also good as well. Okay? That's also good as well. So, in the absence of having someone who can actually read over it and give you a critique, you might want to step away from it, put it aside for 30 minutes, even an hour or a couple of hours, and go do some other tasks. And then before your day ends, then you may want to sit down and look at it and read it and see if there are some things that you want to change. The reason why I'm suggesting this is because if you put some space, some time, some distance between your words and the time that you're working on it, you can catch some of those mistakes. But if you do everything right at the last minute and right all intensely, a lot of times what it happens is our brain fills in the gaps. So for example, if I don't put a my brain when I'm reading it because it's my work automatically fills in the because I know what I meant. But remember, it's not just about you saying what it is that you mean. It's also about it being understood by those who are reading and or hearing your messages. Okay? Here are here is making another kind of routine message is making requests. Okay? Um, Components of a request. You make your request. You provide a rationale. You see, I have them kind of numbered. Call to action. And the call to action, um, is what I want the person to do after reading my message. So even if I just want the person to consider my idea or consider my point of view, whether an explicit action that they take or not, um, I'm of the opinion that there is always a call to action. Okay. Um, for those people who are involved in supply chain and all these other types of things, as you can see here on the left, requests are the essence of people coordinating efforts, buying and selling of products and services, as well as maintaining relationships. All right. So you really this is the reason why writing becomes so important. Written expression becomes so important because you're going to be involved in this and you're going to be doing it often. And so what you say, the instructions, the things that you say need to be clear. Okay. This is in your book, so I'm not going to spend an inordinate amount of time, but I'm just going to point out a few things. Here, software, right? That's a non-descriptive subject line. Here, you see the request is difficult to find. Those of us who wear glasses know that when we get something like this in email, it's painful to read. Well, I'm telling you, for somebody who wears glasses, it's painful to read. Here, the rationale is generic and vague. Okay. It says, in addition, with this investment in the software, I recommend we also invest in relatively inexpensive online training so they can make the most of the software. Okay. That doesn't tell us anything. It just says that, this will cost $10,000 and it will be well worth it. Let me know what you think. And then, of course, here, this says navigation is challenging, one paragraph of 150 words. So all of this really is not helpful, right? It's not helpful. And so in this day and age where we're constantly on our screens and we constantly have emails coming in, we need emails to be the subject lines to be descriptive, tell us what it is. In addition to, remember I talked about help me help you, right? That line, help me help you. When you are making a request of someone, when you want something from someone, whether it is their time, their energy, their money, you want them to volunteer and do something, you want them to check something, whatever it is that you want them to do, help them help you. Make it as clear and efficient as possible in how you communicate. And again, this is why writing is important. I'm probably going to say that like 100 times, but I keep saying that that's the reason why. Okay, so again, this is in your book, so I'm not going to spend an inordinate amount of time on it because you can go read it and you should. This class would be ridiculously long if I spent all of the time on everything. But here we go. Up here, the subject line, 9 words, but it's effective. Purchase of IBM SPSS modeler for our marketing analysis. And if you don't know what SPSS is, it is a statistical program for you to do quantitative analyses. Okay. The request is stated up front. Here we are. Can you provide a purchase authorization for statistical software for our 3 marketing analysts? That's the request. The rationale, he does it in about 2 paragraphs, but that's fine. He's providing support. And if I was Andrea Johansson, I might just go down and look at this little table that he created. And then I might go back. And before I even get into all the details, because I know what it's about and because he's provided the information for me, I might approve it and worry about the rationale later. See what I'm saying? Why? Because I know what it's for. I clearly, as Andrea, have the power to do it. I know what the breakdown is. It's very clear. So Brian is more than likely going to get what it is that he wants because he's making it very easy for Andrea to do her part. Her part is to authorize it, to make sure that it's okay, having viewed the rationale. Now, I'm not saying the rationale is not important. It is very much important. But like I said, in our busy world, if you state that request up front and provide your rationale, as long as the person knows the rationale is there, they might skip down to something like this and go, okay, I can see what this is for. This makes sense. I'm going to start the approval process. And they still might go back and then just actually read your rationale. But again, it needs to be clear. Brian makes it very easy for Andrea to do her job. And when you make it easier for people to do their job, then 9 times out of 10, or more often than not, your requests will be granted. Setting expectations. So, setting expectations is directly tied to your credibility and ability to foster interpersonal trust in the workplace. Failure to do so can lead to lasting professional disappointments and breakdowns in working relationships. Listen, like I said before, I know many people are already dealing with this issue, um, because you all had to do this first, um, when it came to doing your group writing report. So, all that to say is to set expectations, you want to explain what they are, explain your expectations. Then you want to describe responsibilities. Then you want to provide deadlines. Then you want to discuss coordination. And finally, you want to state goodwill. So this is moving us into um, the second type of task oriented routine message. The first one was requests. The second one is expectations, right? So we're going to look at that now. So just briefly, like I said before, this is something that you can go read and should, but I'm just going to hit the high points. The subject line. So if you don't learn anything else, you should know that the titles of your emails should have detailed subject lines, specific. They don't need to be a paragraph long, but they need to be efficient and to give enough information so that the person who sees it knows what it's about or at least has some reference. And this is again why writing becomes important. Your written expression, having a dictionary and thesaurus at your fingertips becomes important so that you can find the words that you need in order to do that. The navigation is challenging. Deadlines are buried. You can see that there are a number of different, I've marked them here, right? Number of different dates. We don't know what's first, second, third, fourth. Just because they're ordered, they come in this order doesn't mean that that's the way that it needs to be done. And the demand, um, the tone is bossy. Okay, you should go read this. All right, that's something that you need to do. Read this so that you can see, perhaps, if this is something that you do. Here's a more effective example of setting expectations. Again, I'm going to hit the high points of it. The expectations are stated very clearly and immediate. Well, first of all, again, here goes that title, right? Expectations are stated, the responsibilities and deadlines, coordination, and the tone is upbeat and positive. This is the kind of email that's helpful. I got an email from a group of young ladies in Toronto, Canada, asking me to be part of their advisory board. And they sent me an email very similar to this. Very specific, and they're when I say they're teenagers, meaning they're 15, 16, 17, and 18 years old. Okay? So it is possible to do this, to write this. Um, so the other thing that you will do in sending routine messages is you'll provide directions to people. Okay. So this is the third type of task oriented routine message. The first was request, the second one was expectations. The third one right here is providing directions or giving directions to people. I've learned a lot even about myself this semester in giving my instructions. Sometimes I think my instructions are clear, and then sometimes, based off the feedback that I get from you, I realize that maybe some things were not as clear. So, giving directions, providing directions, is another routine message that you do, and you need to be good at it or relatively good at it. I'm not perfect, but I'm relatively good at this. And I can say that with some certainty because when you give directions, you have to think about the entire process from beginning to end, and then work your way backwards so that you can provide people with step by step. If you can't give good directions, you probably don't follow directions well either. So just let me just give that to you, and make that statement. But it is helpful if you enumerate them or number them. It makes it clear, it's a process, it's helpful, it's beneficial. So here we go. The components of giving directions. You want to state your goal, okay? You want to give step-by-step directions, enumerating them. And then you want to state goodwill, okay? Here is an example of not of less effective directions. Here go the high points. Subject line, not descriptive. Tone is careless and sloppy. Use of passive voice makes impersonal. They just launch in. The process is fairly simple. Once there is a determination that the trip is necessary, a TA is required. Right? It's just very not nice. Some of you send emails like this. You need to check the kind of emails you send, both to your professors and if you send emails for work, you need to check that. That damages your credibility when you send messages like this. You're not taken seriously. Here's more effective. The directions are specific and clear. Here we go. And look at the title, Procedures for Setting Up Travel. Directions, specific and clear. They add support. For complete details, go to the travel section of the Human Resources Intranet portal. However, they give step-by-step instructions as to the process. And the tone is professional and helpful. You don't want to sound attitudinal, um, in giving those directions. And you have to remember, attitudinal and bossy is very different from someone being adamant. And if those are words not in your vocabulary, you should look them up. Responding to inquiries. This is the fourth type of task-oriented routine message. Remember, the first was request. The second was expectations. The third we just did was directions. And this is the fourth, responding to inquiries. One of the most important strategies for responding to inquiries is to set off each question so your readers can quickly identify responses to particular questions. And these are different types of bullets, right? These are different types of bullets that people can have. That's all this is. So the question, this is an example of a less effective response to an inquiry. The question is, why is this not effective? Pause, read this, and then answer the question, why is this not effective? Second, here's another one. Less effective response to inquiry. Wait, yeah. Less effective response to an inquiry. Again, why is this not effective? Pause, read it. Why is this not effective? Here is a more effective response to an inquiry. Pause, read it, and answer the question, why is this effective? Why is this effective? I can already tell you right now, these things in bold help to section off organizationally. It's organized. So that's the first thing. That's one of the things. But answer for yourself, why is this effective? What about outside of what I've just told you, organization, and the fact that there are some bolded sentences which help to section things off? Why is this more effective? Same thing with this. Why is this effective? What makes this more effective than the previous um, responses? One of the other things that you will do is also create announcements, especially if you are working in public relations or doing some type of social media stuff for the company that you work for. You will create announcements for updates, right, to policies and procedures, events, right, and any other type of correspondences that are necessary, both for employees and or customers, right? Some people, that's what they do. That's might be in the Department of Public Relations, but it doesn't necessarily have to be, but creating announcements. So here are the components of announcements. You're going to give attention or gain attention, right? You're going to make a statement that gains attention. You're going to give an announcement. You're going to provide detail. You're going to do a call to action. And that, remember, call to action is what do you want the person or people to do after reading or hearing your message? And then you're going to state goodwill. Okay? 5 components to creating announcements. Um, Again, the subject line must be specific and must create interest. Remember, I said that if you don't take away anything else from now on, your emails, the subject lines should be specific. That's part of the reason why I don't have y'all email me, because the people I had in the spring, horrible, horrible when it comes to email. Um, and it was painful to read through email, to get emails, to read through emails. It was just like it was like a surprise every time. So it's easier for you to just ask your question than to send me an email, because many people don't know how to write emails or compose emails or even fill out all of the fields in a way that's beneficial both to them as well as to the person that they're sending the email to. So, why is this announcement not effective? I'm not going to get into it. Pause this, read it, and make a decision, or try to articulate for yourself why you feel that this announcement is not effective based off of this chapter. Okay? And you feel free to, send me a question via Remind or email if you've learned how to put together an email. Um, you know, you can check your knowledge on it. You can ask me a question, but try to articulate for yourself why this announcement is not effective. Okay? Same thing with this. Why is this effective? Why is this effective? So, pause, read through it. Based off of what you've learned thus far, why is this effective? What is it about this particular announcement that is effective? Okay, answer that question for yourself. All right. Making claims. Sometimes you will also make claims, or we all make claims. But what we need to do is need to understand the components of a claim. And again, because we all make claims, not just in business, but just in life, in talking to people, in conversations, in writing papers, and all of our doing, right? And being as human beings, we are always making a claim, right? But in business, The claims are requests for companies to compensate for or correct the wrongs or mistakes they have made. So we always make claims about someone or something, but in business specifically, claims are requests for other companies to compensate for or correct the wrongs or mistakes they have made. Now, the components of a claim, even these components of a claim, can still be used in any other type of claims you might make. In other words, even though you can still use this for like developing an argument. You state your claim, what you believe or think, you provide rationale or support, you have a call to action, what you want or feel people should do, and then you state goodwill. It's still the format can still be utilized in another. It can be transported in many different other areas. So you're going to make your claim. You're going to provide rationale. You're going to do a call to action. Remember, call to action is what do you want people to do after hearing or reading your claim and or request, and then state goodwill. As you write claims, keep in mind that your goal is to have your claim honored. Focus on facts first and emotions second, if at all. Lay out a logical, reasonable, and professional explanation for your claim. Okay? Now, listen, people will disappoint you, people will mess up, that will happen. And we are all entitled to feel the way that we feel. However, if we send an email and the email is, you didn't do this and da 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 and blah 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 blah, the likelihood of having your email responded to gets reduced, right? And so you really need to be thoughtful about that, because if your claim is not honored, then your goal is not achieved. So, if you sound off at someone via email, just know that the likelihood of them answering your email diminishes. They might answer it, but they're going to take a while to answer it. Okay? All right. So, here goes a less effective claim. Again, why is this not effective? Pause, read this, and articulate for yourself, or write through this for yourself. Write it down. Why is this not effective? Okay? And it will help get it stuck in your brain why this is not effective. For this one, why is this effective?